What's up, Friday Coaching Chats? I'm Beth Hovis, and today we're going to be talking about something that affects every wellness practitioner, I think, in one shape or form, somewhere along the line, at some point, in some way. And that's the area of the courage to be seen, the courage to be visible and put ourselves out there and take a risk in one form or fashion. Taking a risk and putting ourselves out there on the line affects a lot of people. You know, it may seem like getting up in front of people can be easy for some, more so for some people than others. But there's also the truth is that sometimes getting up in front of people is quite scary, even for those who are accustomed to doing it. It was so funny because I had been doing my Facebook Lives on Friday afternoons with my Facebook group, the people that I knew. A lot of y'all are my students or were my students, and I had known you for a while, and I was very comfortable. And I had been doing YouTube for a couple of years, but when I went from doing Facebook Live to YouTube Live, things kind of changed. I felt different. I felt a little, butterfly-y in my tummy. Hey, Rebecca, I am so glad you're here and that you're looking forward to this topic because, as I've been explaining, it seems to the courage to be visible, the courage to show up. It can be hard sometimes because we deal with issues. We deal with issues that make us want to shrink back or pull back, or things that have happened that don't go the way that we think they should. So hey, Tanya, oh my goodness, it's good to see your face. It's been a while, so I'm glad you're here today. So as you're coming in and as you're saying hello, please do say hello. I love the chat. I love being able to get the input back and forth. That's a beautiful thing that we got really good at when we were doing Facebook Live. And from what I understand, the experience on YouTube Live is a little bit different. But if you can find the chat box and you can start commenting as you're coming in, that would be great. So what we're talking about today is the courage to be visible, the courage to show up, that just because we have the knowledge. Hello, Coffee the 8th. Glad you're here today. Just because we have the knowledge, we've gone to school, we've paid for our education, we've been getting on the job training maybe. It doesn't mean that we have all the confidence in the world to put ourselves out there. Now, maybe you have confidence in what you're doing, but I've seen some practitioners who have felt the lack of confidence to put themselves out there, to share what they're doing. And I've also seen those who may have several designations. They've gone through and gotten a lot of different training, and they're still feeling a lack of confidence. So if you're bold enough and willing to share, drop a comment and let me know what you're dealing with. Is it the first thing where you're feeling the lack of courage to show up and share what you do and who you are and how you help people? Or are you dealing with not having the confidence to actually do something, to put what you've learned into practice? And maybe it's both. If it's both, say both. So before you dive in, I do want to give my little YouTube disclaimer of please subscribe and click the notification bell for this channel. That way you're notified anytime new videos drop, but especially when we're going live, because it's easy to miss the live if you don't get the notification. And definitely give us a like and things like that. Really appreciate it. So whether you're working from a brick and mortar location or you offer virtual consultations, or maybe you do a little bit of both. So Rebecca, both. She admitted that she deals with both and that Bach flowers have been very helpful. That's good. And if you're not familiar with Bach flower remedies, I recommend getting familiar with them because they can really help. So it could be that not only you're dealing with a blending of fears that kind of want to hold you back, but maybe you're also dealing with, I have a virtual practice as well as a brick and mortar. Maybe you only do brick and mortar, maybe you only have a virtual practice, but it's either way, whatever form of practice you have, it's important that you let other people know about the knowledge that you have and the skills that you have so that you can help them. So, one of the first things that people have a difficult time with is talking about what you do. Because why? Because it feels awkward. And yeah, Tanya says imposter syndrome is rough. We do feel like imposters sometimes, but we're not. And one of the things that I remind myself is if I know a little bit more than the person that I'm helping, then I'm qualified. I am qualified to help them. And, we're always learning and teaching, but, talking about what we do can feel very awkward. And we've been talking about, do you have a mission statement? Do you have an authentic message that keeps you from freezing up when you're talking to someone about what you do? And also, when I say authentic message, the wellness practitioners are very good about talking about things that may not make sense to the common person. I'm a prime example of that. My specialty, as most of y'all know, is iridology. So when I say I'm an iridologist, if someone doesn't have a clue about what that is, they kind of give you a blank look, and then you've got to start explaining what iridology is, and they may or may not be interested, and then I've suddenly lost the person because I'm explaining vague terms to them that they don't understand, and I may only have a few seconds to capture their attention. Now, if someone actually gets into an iridology consultation with me, they're usually fascinated and they're hooked because it's like, wow, that's amazing. But if you're freezing up or you're getting tongue-tied because you don't know how to share what you do in such a way that it's clear, that it identifies who the person you're reaching is, that you're telling them that you understand the struggles that they deal with and the transformation that they're going to get, many times we leave the person who asked that question unsure of what it is we actually do. And so we've got to get beyond that. There are some people who feel like if they talk about their work too much, that it feels like bragging, that all they're doing is talking about themselves. And so they might hold back because they don't want to feel like that. So Rebecca says, finding my voice is part of my trauma healing journey. Yeah, that's one of those things. A lot of times we've lost our voice or don't stand up for ourselves because we've been told not to in a traumatic way. And, that can be really hard to overcome, but we can do that. Thank God for Jesus's work on the cross and what he has done for us. So I want to ask a question here. This is where I want you to stop a minute and I want you to think. And the question is, where do you feel tongue-tied when someone asks about your work? Where do you start to stumble when someone says, hey, Rebecca, or hey, Tanya, or hey, Coffee? Where do you feel tongue-tied when you try to explain what you do, who you are, what you do? Hey, Rebecca, hey, Tanya, hey, Beth, what do you do? And do you start stumbling with your answer? So think about that and reflect on that. And is it identifying the people that you're helping? Are you explaining something that people can't lock onto and don't understand, and it's very vague sounding? It doesn't really actually explain what you're doing. Think about that. Another thing that people deal with is fear of judgment from your community. Now, I get this from people all the time. In fact, when I first started in natural health, I started taking herbs and using essential oils and homeopathic remedies. And then I started working part-time for an herb shop. And as I would, as I learned and grew in my knowledge about herbs or aromatherapy or homeopathy, and I would share things with people, there were some people at my church who would say things like, oh, you're doing witchcraft or voodoo or something like that. And these are people that you're going, wait a minute. I'm like, I thought you were my friend. I thought you knew me. Some of them, they were joking. And even if they were joking, it was kind of like, why would you say something like that? Now that's been 30 years ago now. Okay. So that's been a long time since that happened initially, but that's one of those things where I think sometimes we still get this pushback from our family or from our friends and from the people we go to church with, and sometimes we pull back because we are concerned about what they may think, and sometimes we pull back because they've said things to us in such a way that make us feel like you know they can't trust us or something like that. So Tanya says, sometimes I do feel like I may be too vague. And that is one of those things. Yeah, hearing that. Yeah, getting that pushback from community can be really hard. And having that vague, that's one of those things where you got to be able to pinpoint what you're saying really quickly. They used to call it the elevator speech. And the reason they did that, when I say this would be marketing strategists and coaches and things like that who are helping people close a sale. All right. So you've got to get on an elevator with someone, and in 30 seconds, you've got to be able to convince them, share with them why they should buy your product. Well, that gets a little bit pushy. So I don't want you to give an elevator speech. I want you to learn how to give your authentic message. But the idea of being able to say it quickly and clearly needs to come across. So your message is for the people you're called to help. And that's one of those things where if you can get comfortable in your authentic message of who you are, what you do, who you help, and how you help them, and how you help change their lives, then it's one of those things where if they are interested or have need of your services, you've given them the opportunity to ask more questions, find out more. But it's clear enough that if they don't know, if they don't need it, they might also recommend someone they go, oh, well, I know someone who's dealing with that particular issue, and I'm going to tell them about what you do. That's always a compliment, because maybe they don't see that they need it, but someone they know and love does. So when we get into the Roots to Results Academy and coaching, we work through this deeply. We get into the mission statement and who you're helping and why you're helping them, and the transformation that you're going to help them overcome. We get into that. What is that authentic message? Now, here, very simply, and I've said this so many times before, it's who you're helping. That's your niche, who you're helping, what they're struggling with, how you're helping them, and how their lives are going to be transformed. So there's 4 points that you want to think about when you're thinking, how do I share my authentic message? So if I'm working as an iridologist naturopath, I'm helping those who deal with complex chronic illnesses, who are struggling with health and not feeling good. They appear to feel, they appear great, but their doctor's reports always come back with vague answers. But I help them get to the root of the issue and take back their lives so that they can enjoy their family and do things they love again. That's a little bit long, but that's something that if I said that to someone in a conversation, it's not, I'm an iridologist and I do blah, 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 and then they don't even know what an iridologist is. What they hear is, oh, I help people who have chronic complex health issues, who are struggling to have a happy, joyful life, who feel like, they can't enjoy life anymore, get to the root of the problem so that they can transform their lives and have a good, healthy life again. So that's the kind of statement that you got to get comfortable saying with people, right? As a coach, I'm a holistic wellness coach. I help wellness practitioners build structure and into their business so that they can reach the people that they need to reach and help transform lives. And see, that's it. Oh, you do? So it's like a very easy, very simple sentence, as it were, of how you help, who you help, what they're struggling with, and how you transform lives. Now, it really needs to be a little bit more than that, but that's the basis of it. Okay? So, how many of you feel uncomfortable promoting yourself? How many of you feel uncomfortable doing things on social media, or getting a booth, or building a flyer, or I don't think people do business cards that much anymore. How many of y'all still do business cards? I don't have a business card anymore. That's one of those things. I'm like, so many people are like, here, just let me share my information, and all you have to do is bump phones now. And so if you have a business card, that's great. If that suits you, if I were to go to an event, I would definitely have at least brochures. If I don't, because business cards, we don't collect business cards like we used to. But if that works for you, let me know. I want to know if that works for you. So, Rebecca says, I have cards. People ask for them. Okay, cool. So there are some places where they're still using cards. That's excellent. All right. And that's definitely something where I'm more of an online now. So it's like less needed for me to have cards in my purse. When I had my herb shop and I did in-person consultations, it was much better for me to have, my cards then. Now I have brochures for sure. Yeah, Rebecca does too. So cool. All right. So here we are. Our third point is, are you feeling uncomfortable promoting your services? Because sometimes we hesitate to invite people because of the first two reasons: the judgment from community, or we don't feel confident in what we're doing, or we have a fear that we're not good enough or skilled enough or something like that. And we don't want to feel salesy. I mean, golly, I hate to feel salesy, and I hate it when people kind of make me feel like I've got to buy something. I went to the grocery store this morning, and I'm just going, about my business, and there at the end of the aisle is a young man, very nice young man, very pleasant, but he wants to sell me Wi-Fi. And I'm like, not only does my husband work for a communications provider, and we get really good service and all that, it's like, I don't want to be in the grocery store and accosted by a salesperson. I just can't stand that, and like I said, he was very nice, but he was very persistent, and it's like, I don't want it to feel like when I'm sharing and promoting my services that I'm pushing anybody into something. I don't like that when it happens to me, and I don't want that to happen to you. But if you don't share and promote your services, how are people going to know who you are, what you do, how you help, what you offer? So we let opportunities pass because we feel like we're being pushy. And so we've got to find that balance somewhere of the guy who's setting up a booth and willing to talk to anybody and get a lot of rejection. I mean, face it, when you do that kind of thing, salespeople have got to have a thick hide, because you're putting yourself out there over and over and over again, and you're going to have some people who are nice and smile like I did, had a good conversation with him, and then went on my way. And you're going to have some people who are rude and mean, and and that hurts. But you've got to be able to have a way to balance between being pushy and just being present. So here's the solution. Here's a solution of way to think of that is we got to shift from thinking I'm selling to serving. We are selling. I mean, if you are in business, you are selling services and products. You're selling. But if you can think of it as, instead of I'm selling something and I've got to convince you that you've got to buy this, if I look at it and go, I'm serving. I'm serving those who need encouragement in building their business. I'm serving people who need a little bit more help of deep diving, of building systems, of knowing how to niche down and find their market and then reach out to people. That's a service that I'm doing. And that's what you're doing too, as wellness practitioners, is you're looking at people and you're going, how can I serve you? And if you are serving them, it's like the waiter that comes up to your dinner table who's giving them the menu options of what you offer, right? You're telling them, this is what I offer. And it's up to you what you order off the menu. Then I'm not being pushy. Then I'm not being salesy. I'm just letting people know, here we go. Here's my list. These are the things that I offer. See that? And if you are interested, I'll be glad to talk to you about this some more. I'll be glad to set up an appointment. Now, I still love, how many of y'all remember, yeah, thank you, Rebecca. How many of y'all remember Judy Masters' 3-question rule? Do y'all remember her talking about that? To me, that was kind of like lifesaver time. So Judy's 3-question rule, because both she and I owned herb shops, and so when a customer would come in, they would start asking lots of questions, and there's a distinction that we had to learn to have. Yep. So Rebecca says, yep, she still uses it. There's a distinction that we had to learn to have between, this is a customer and this person actually needs more. They need us to dig deeper and find out what's going on. We don't want to just recommend something. But the same is true even now after not having an herb shop. I still have issue with people will just reach out, and y'all probably have the same issue of people reach out and they want your smarts, and they want your smarts for free. And there's something about sharing, just answering some questions. But Judy came up with the 3-question rule, where she would answer 3 questions, and then after 3 questions it was, okay, now it's time to book an appointment. And so if you can become comfortable with, I am your server, here's what's on the menu, you have some questions, let me answer your questions. If you're sitting there, if you're imagining with me, you're sitting in a restaurant, a very nice restaurant, white tablecloth, your server is dressed in white and black, very professional, and he or she is standing there just going, here is what we have to offer, this is on the menu, these are our specials, what would you like? And it's a very, it's like, I'm not pressuring you to do anything. It's just I'm here to serve. Let me go get it for you. I'm here to serve. Let's book an appointment and dive deeper into what's going on. And the 3-question rule really helps to you keep your boundaries of, you're not giving away information for free, and they start to see you as the professional that you are. You are a professional, and that's how you want to be seen. So that's one of those things that we want to come across as professionals, because we are professionals. And if I was talking to one person and she was telling me how many hours she spent, not only did she do the consultation, but she did iridology analysis and she did pH analysis, and she liked to look at the blood type to connect it to the blood type. And then if they had any labs that they wanted to send her, or they were on a list of prescriptions, and I'm sitting here tallying up the hours that she's working, and I'm going, that's a lot of work. That's a lot that you're doing. And if you're only charging for 1 hour of your time for what just turned into 3 or 4 or 5 hours worth of work, you are giving away information, and you're not receiving the energy back. So you're expending energy without receiving energy by way of payment back if you keep giving things away. So You've got to learn how to offer the service, right? So, now, about reaching those friends and family, how many of you have offered to help family, have done what I did? You went out and you bought herbs, you bought essential oils, you bought homeopathic remedies, you bought the kits, you did that. And all of a sudden, you're spending, not only are you researching and you're spending the money and you're giving it away, they're not using it. They're not using what you just offered them. And you did it for free because they're family or they're close friends. All right, let me go back. Rebecca says, how did she decide to bill for those hours? I find myself in that boat too. So one of my suggestions, Rebecca, for that was to charge the consultation and to put in there a research fee. And I said, charge 2 hours worth of research. So if you charge $100 an hour for your time, then charge 2 hours for research. And then I said, and you can always say, oh, it only took me an hour or whatever. And then you can put the remaining balance of that towards a future consultation or something like that. Now, she really liked that solution. But it's one of those things, and I've mentioned this in the past few weeks a few times, because having to take my little dog Indiana to the vet and just drop everything and get her to the vet, and my vet had closed down and I didn't even realize it, didn't even get a letter saying they were going out of business or anything like that, so that was fun. Found a new vet, took her to the vet, and of course when I get there, it's like, okay, this is the charge for the visit and this is the charge for the blood work, and if they do x-rays, it's going to be this, and if they do they wanted to do maybe even EKG, that it was going to be and I'm like, they were not shy about listing out all of the different prices that it was going to cost. And it wasn't just, oh, you came in and this is your visit and it's $75. It's like, okay, you walked in the door, you saw the vet, that's $75. And now if you want any lab work or x-rays or prescriptions or anything like that, it's going to cost extra. And the medical, the vets, the chiropractors, if they see you, it's one fee. If they do x-rays, that's an additional fee. It's like they don't shy away from doing that, and yet for some reason we're giving away everything either for no charge or for very little. And it's hard. It's so hard to go, this is my fee. So what we ended up doing with her was figuring out how to phrase it in such a way that it was kind of like a package. So the package is, as you get the first visit, follow-up visit, and so many hours of research for X amount of dollars. That's what we did. So she's like, that made her feel very comfortable. And then we still put in there, if any of the research hours were not used up, it could go to a future appointment. So if she didn't feel like she was cheating them and that they were getting what it's worth, but she also didn't feel cheated because she's sitting there spending hours and hours of her time. Because yes, we do need to look at what are the prescriptions or over-the-counter medications they're taking. Now, some of them, of course, the prescriptions we can't tell them to come off of, so we've got to work beside them, as it were. We've got to work alongside them and make sure that we're not making recommendations that will either potentize or negate what they're taking. We don't want it to detox it out, make it not work, or make it work even more, right? What was that package? Ask me that again, Rebecca, in a different way, because I'm not sure what you mean by that. The package I think I was talking about was she offered a consultation plus a follow-up visit plus 2 hours of research time, and that's what she called her package. It's a kind of package, and I think she settled at like $500 or something like that. That was comfortable to her. There are other people who do packages, and they do 3-month packages or 6-month packages. Yeah, that was it. That was what she offered. That was what she decided to offer. So sometimes we do things like it's a 6-month package or a 12-month package, because I work with my clients. Some of them are working with children who have things like the 4A's, the ADD, ADHD, asthma, um, allergies, and I forget the other A. Um, and so that's not going to be a short term, come see me 1 or 2 times. They're putting together things to help them, like packages to help them to get through and to get healthier. And so they're putting together 6-month and 12-month packages and things like that. So what we want to do is we want to work on a visibility plan, right? We want to work on specific things that you can do to grow your audience, specific things that you can do that you can start stepping up and showing up so that you're not limited in clients, and you can broaden your reach and things like that. So a lot of times, another thing that I deal with are people who are like, they don't like being on social media. And you don't have to be on social media. You can build a business without being on social media. That's another thing one of my clients does, is she's actually in the Amish community who don't use social media. And she's built a very nice business using things like postcards and stuff like that. So, that's one of those things where there are different ideas and different solutions that work for different people. But getting out here, getting on social media, I mean, like I said at the beginning, when I first went from being, because I've been comfortable, I'm one of those people that getting up in front of a group of people and talking doesn't usually bother me. Now, when I was in front of 600 people at the Barbara O'Neill event, there were a few more butterflies than when I typically get in front of 60 people. But, I still didn't have an issue when I did that. But it was so funny when I went from Facebook Live to YouTube, when I changed my platform here, that gave me butterflies bigger than getting in front of 600 people. And I don't know why, because it's still our group, but it just made me like, oh my goodness, what if things go wrong? What if things don't work out? So everybody experiences these times where it's like, either I don't want to do this is uncomfortable, or I don't know how. And there's a lot of things like, we've talked about scheduling systems and calendars, sending out newsletters and emails, and sometimes that can just be overwhelming. So and it's hard too, because I'm sitting here going, I'm getting ready to say, just focus on one tool at a time, learn one thing at a time. And that's really great advice, and not typically how I do things. Because because as you're putting things together, it's like, oh, well, if you're putting your website together, then you've got to you got to find a way to do your calendar, and then you've got to find a way to do your email. So it doesn't seem easy, but it can be. It can be if you'll just do one thing at a time. Just focus on one tool. Either I'm going to learn how to do my calendar, or I'm going to find someone who can help me with my website, or I'm going to look ahead next year and see. And I'm already doing that. I'm looking at like the ANMA convention. I'm looking at other places that I might be able to go and set up and be invited to speak or something like that. And it's like, it's November 2025. Some things aren't until the summer of next year, but I'm going ahead and I'm looking ahead to see how I can plan those things. Because what we want to do is even if it's just contacting your church, your pastor, and saying, hey, could I teach a class? Would the church be willing to host me in teaching a class? Or you can call your county or your town's women's group and say, hey, what do you have to offer where I can maybe come in and speak? Are you looking for speakers where I can share what I'm doing? Just one thing at a time that suits you. teaching classes is one of the best ways to reach people in your community. It really is. So if you can find a way to hook up with people who need speakers, who are looking for teachers, who they have a program every month, like the senior center or homeschool groups or things like that, they're looking for speakers. See if you can't find places where they'll let you come in. Some are going to be small, some are going to be big, but it's going to be something where you can do things a little at a time and get the news out there. So choose the tools that match where you are, and choose the tools that match your energy that you have to put into it, because you can build systems as you go, and so that's just something to think about, of how can I build systems as I go. All right, so let's talk about confidence, that confidence moment. So someone shows up, they're interested, and you're just going, oh my goodness, what do I do? Right? You want to just take a minute and pause and breathe and give yourself permission to share what you do. Give yourself the permission to just say, remind yourself, I've got the training, I've got the knowledge, I've got the skills, and they are interested in what I do. So I want to share what I do in such a way that it communicates, right? So if you have a brick and mortar location, you could hold an open house. When someone compliments you on something, you can share, oh, your skin looks so good, or you've got such nice thick hair, or, oh, I've noticed you seem to be, brighter, or something like that. Or, oh, I noticed you have these herbs that you're taking, or something like that. Tell me about that. You use that time, those compliments, to share what you do. Just let it be an open door of, oh yeah, I help people with this. And think about, other ways where it's really interesting when you start to when you feel the passion of you're identifying with what someone's going through. Don't hold back. Now, if it's not time, you're in a class or something like that, and I don't like it when people, I don't want it to be like, oh, I waited until you were in the parking lot and then I pounce on you and I've got you as a captive audience. But if somebody mentions something and you're going, you know what, I could help that person with that, don't hold back. That you may be just the person that they're looking for. They may have actually been sitting there praying, going, God, I need someone who can help me with this. And they mention their issue, and you could just go, you know what? I have answers for that situation. I've been in the natural health field for however many years, and I've helped other people with that, or, something like that. That can help you open up, because you're not standing in front of a lot of people. Now you're not doing something that's uncomfortable. You're sharing with someone the very thing that they're saying, I have need of, and you're going, I have help. I have answers for that. So, when someone talks about, oh gosh, I feel so bloated, I've just had poor digestion, or my blood sugar issues are this, or I've had stress for so long, that's an open door for you to say, I've dealt with stress too, or I've dealt with hormone imbalances too. I'm also dealing with issues with this. And what has helped me is learning how to balance my hormones or let go of stress by doing certain things naturally. And I'd love to share more about that with you. I'm a natural wellness practitioner, and just kind of put the ball in their court. Here's the menu. Here's what I'm serving. So I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense to y'all? I know y'all have been doing a lot of listening. I know Rebecca's been chatting with me. Thank you for that, Rebecca. And Tanya, I was here for a little bit. But make sure that you're offering your menu of services. And I do that because I'm doing my little hands in a certain way, because I'm like, That's what I imagine when the waiter or the waitress comes up, the server comes up, and they're offering me something on their menu. They're just showing me what I have, the choices, and that's what we're doing. Oh, you're dealing with certain health issues. I have so many choices on my menu of ways that I can help you, and I'd love to help you with that. So, what I want to do is I want you to learn to put this into practice, okay? Choose choose a moment this week. Look ahead of and think about, and you may not know what that moment is until that moment is upon you, but it's almost like um, purpose in your heart that when a moment comes up to speak up, that you're not going to shrink back. And it could be in the grocery store, it could be in the checkout line, it could be at the bank, it could be at church, it could be anywhere, it could be in homeschool group or something like that. Yep, she's been driving. I figured Tanya was still with me. Thank you. But that's what I'm thinking is go ahead and go, okay, this I'm going to purpose, and I call it practicing or rehearsing. I was in drama in high school, and I taught elementary drama. When I taught school, I did both physical science and I taught elementary drama, and I loved it. But I loved it all. But one of the things that if we will rehearse how we're going to respond, go back to that authentic message, who I help, what they're struggling with, how I help them, and the transformation that they're going to see when they work with me. Then when I rehearse that authentic, this is what I do. I help people with this. It's part of your identity, and that comes through. Then when that moment comes up, right? That moment happens, instead of shrinking back, go ahead and purpose that you're going to say something. And things that you can say, like that 3-question rule is, once you've talked, you've gone back and forth and they've asked 3 questions or something like that, you could say something like, I'd love to talk about this with you some more. Would you like to set up a consultation so that we can dig deeper into this? And just wait, Another thing that you could say is, I have resources that could really help you with this. Would you like to set up a consultation so that I can share more about that? And it's one of those things where, I get it. I called my mom the MLM queen because love her. I love my mom, but she would do this to me. I would get a phone call from my mom and she would say, "What are you doing Thursday night?" And I'm thinking, oh, isn't that so sweet? My mom is calling. She wants to get together with family and she wants to do something. And if I said, oh, not much, what's going on? Well, I just got invited to another MLM party, whether it was health related or she sold old oil paintings for a while, she sold Amway, she did all of those things. And I finally, just like I said, I was like, I learned to my own mother say, what's going on, instead of oh, not much, what's going on. I would just go, what's going on? Because I didn't want to commit to go into another MLM. I didn't want to be in that position. And that's not what we want to do to our potential clients. And I feel that. So that's why I'm so passionate about having that authentic message of, I really help people, and I'm giving you the opportunity to respond to what I'm saying. So it's like, if you help people get their lives back. And so get their lives back is vague. You need to be more purposeful in that. It's like, if you work with women who have hormonal issues and have stubborn weight loss, they're not losing weight. You could say things like, I help women who have reached perimenopause or menopause, who are having trouble with high cortisol levels and stress and weight gain. They can't lose weight. And what I help them do is get on a path of getting their health back so that they are stronger. They're getting their muscle tone back. They're losing that belly fat and they feel great. That's very specific. And then when you talk to that person, they know exactly what you do. They're not feeling like you're putting them in oh, I've got an MLM and this is going to work for you. It's I have solutions. I have resources that can help you. And I'd love to set up an appointment with you to see if that'll work for you, And that's basically what we do. So what we want to do is we want to build visibility through service, not through spotlight. I mean, if you want to do what I'm doing and get on YouTube and do social media and all that, I am all for it. I think we need to have more natural health professionals out there showing that we are professionals and that we do have answers and we do have solutions. If that's not for you, I don't want you to feel like I'm pushing you to be in the spotlight either. But I am asking you, how can you show up to serve? How can you show that your business is a service? And when you see yourself as going, what I'm doing is a service for others, I am helping others to get better, then it's easier to find the courage to be visible. It's easier to find the words to say, this is who I help. This is how I help you. And these are the results you can see if you work with me. So what you want to do is when you are doing this, share client wins. That's one of those things where I'll say sometimes, like when I was talking about the package, it was like there was an obvious aha moment when I said something about, so you spent 3 hours, and I don't even think this was one of the consultations. I think this was just someone she had, either a friend or she had met, but she's like, they spent 3 hours talking and she spent 3 hours giving away information. And I said, did they pay you for that? And she said, no. And I said, so you were giving out energy, you were giving out of yourself, and you never received anything in return. And she's like, no. And I said, so they basically depleted your energy without giving you anything back. And she was kind of stunned. And I'm like, yeah, we call money currency for a reason. There's something about receiving money for what we offer that actually fills us up. And I don't mean that to be like carnal or greedy or anything like that, but if you keep giving and giving and giving and there's nothing flowing back to you, because what does money do? Money pays the bills. Knowledge doesn't pay the bills. She just gave away 3 hours worth of knowledge and didn't get anything in return to pay a bill. Therefore, she had to expend more energy somewhere else to be able to pay a bill. And that's why it's so important for the current to flow. You give, but you also receive. When you order items off a menu at a restaurant, you expect to pay the tab before you leave. And if the server did a really good job, you leave a really good tip because they did a great job. Because what they did, the energy put in, was worthy of receiving currency, money coming back to them. So when you're doing this, as you're building visibility and you're doing it through service, make sure that you share your those moments where someone else you helped came through. If you're just getting started in this, you could share stories about what worked for you. You can share stories of how you learned how something helped you or your family member or something like that. So it can be personal when you first start. Those are powerful testimonies. Share with your community. Go out and figure out how to position yourself in your community, whether it's a virtual community or an in-person community. maybe both, so that you are visible, so that you're the authority. That's another thing is, don't keep sharing other people's knowledge. Don't keep sharing. It's great to share. It's so easy to hit the share button, and please do share my YouTube videos. Share. I love that. I'm like, that would be great. I'm trying to get this out there, so do that. But what I'm saying is share my blogs, read my blogs, do all that. I want you to do that. But you know what? You need to do that. You need to write articles. You need to write blogs. You need to post things, because that makes you the authority. It makes you visible, and it makes you visible in such a way that it's written, right? Instead of necessarily having to get on YouTube. So offer educational moments. Give them just a little bit. If you're in person or whatever, and in a group, and someone asks a question, and you say, hey, I have a solution for that. I have resources that can help you with that. If you're interested, I'll be glad to share more about that. And that's all you have to say. And if they're interested, they'll come back to you. That's one of those things where, like, I'm imagining now being in a group and there's a speaker or there's a topic that's being talked about, and somebody says something, and I'm just going, you know what, now may not be the time for me to start telling you how to do all of these things naturally, but I can give you a little hint of, hey, yeah, you know what, I can help you with that. I have resources. I've got people that I've worked with who have seen success with that. And I believe I can help you too. If you'd like to know more, let me know, And that's really all you have to do. So respond to questions with helpful answers, but don't be afraid to say, hey, it looks like you need a little bit more time. Let's talk about that some more. Let's book an appointment for that. So that's another one of those, hey, that's a really good thing. So, visibility gets easier when you're excited about what you're offering. So if it's something that you're going, this, I don't want to share this. I don't want to tell other people about it. You might want to think about what it is you're offering to see if there's a way that you can say it better. That's why I keep going. Your authentic message makes such a big difference, because people want to know that, yes, you care, that you have the resources, and that they really are going to have some kind of change because of whatever they're struggling with. So think about what you're offering. Does it feel legit, authentic, legitimate? Is it, when you talk to people, are you having to force them or convince them? Because if you're having to convince them of something, then that may be part of it. People can feel when you're pushing them into something, and it's like, you don't want to do that. You want to invite. It's an invitation. It's a service. I'm here to help, and I invite you to come, but I'm not going to push you to come, right? There's no pushing. So that's one of those things where, I'm going to do it. I finally had to learn how to go that same thing of the courage of showing up, and I'm going, I don't want to say, hey, in my Roots to Results, this is what we do. But if I don't tell you what we offer, how do you know what we offer? If I don't tell you how I can help with that, how do you know what's in it? And so that's the same thing that you need to take. When I do my iridology class, I tell you what I'm offering in iridology. When we do our Brilliant Health Weekends Away, I tell you what we're covering in our Weekends Away. Why? So you'll know what you're getting. And that's what you want to do with your clients. They want to know what they're going to get. So it needs to feel like you love what you're doing, you're passionate about it. You can't wait to get with them to help them find the root issue. And you want it to be something that's just second nature. It's just, this is what I do. This is who I am. This is what I offer. So think about that. Just ponder that, and just think about how you can build your strategy of being visible in such a way that it's genuine to you. That, you can show up without fear, because there may be times when you need to push through the fear. I mean, that first time I went to YouTube and went live on YouTube. Like I said, it was easy because I had been on YouTube for almost 2 years doing herbs and baking my sourdough, and I was doing it in front of a camera, but no one was watching me live, and it was like, oh my goodness, now I'm doing something. It was uncomfortable, but I pushed through. I pushed through and I did it anyway. So think about that. Is this something that resonates with you? Is it something that really feels like I just love sharing this because I love seeing people have their lives changed? That's where it's going to make a difference for you. So honor your design. I realize that as an iridologist, I know that some of you are introverts and I know some of you are extroverts. I know that just from working with people, doing social skills and stuff like that. Some people thrive in that one-on-one. Some people don't ever want to be up in front of a group. And so if there's anything that I've said to you and you're going, Beth, I could never do that. That is not me. I honor that. That's fine. You don't have to do something. You don't have to go bungee jumping or jump out of an airplane or anything like that. That's not what I'm asking you to do. What I'm asking you to do, though, is it something that just, if you take that step, it'll put the fear behind you? If you push through and do whatever it is, will it be something that builds confidence in you that you go, next time I do this, it'll be easier. Next time I do this, it'll be easier. And I think it will, especially if you do it from your design. So you don't have to go get on stage and speak to 600 people. You don't have to build courses or do YouTubes or things like that. But I would encourage you to send out emails. I would encourage you to find one social media platform that you like and share on that. It could be Instagram, it could be LinkedIn, it can be Facebook, but share somewhere so that people see you and they see you as the authority, not you sharing someone else's articles, but you sharing about whoever it is you help. So that can make a big difference right there. So I just want to encourage you to do that. And I also want to let everybody know that I am going to have some Black Friday specials being released around my iridology and Roots to Results coaching. So y'all want to stay tuned to that. That is one of those things where I do have a special $200 off for the Brilliant Health Weekend Away. So if y'all are thinking of coming to our May 2026 Weekend Away event, now through Thanksgiving, you can save $200 off of your tuition. And I'll have other specials for, like I said, for my iridology and my Roots to Results class as well. And so just stay tuned for that. And I just want to leave you with you can build your confidence. You can build your confidence by taking that step, making sure you're clear, you're authentic, and you're serving. You're serving others, that what you're doing is a service. You're not being pushy. So, if anybody, has any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear them. Drop some comments. Let me know what you're doing, how you're doing. I know some people watch this later, so please go ahead and, even if you weren't able to comment live, just leave comments and we can continue this discussion later. Rebecca said seed time and harvest too. That's right. There are times when we plant the seed and we've just got to wait for the plant to grow and blossom and then bear the fruit, because it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. Sometimes we just have to be patient. We have to weed our garden and pull out those worrisome thoughts and the stress and the anxiety, and we have to water it and just keep giving it the good things and wait for it to bloom. So thank y'all again for joining me. We will be back next week. The Friday after Thanksgiving, I will not be here. because I will be celebrating Thanksgiving with my family, taking that as a long weekend. And I hope to see y'all here next week. Oh, and check out my video if you haven't already done it. I just did a video on YouTube on crystals and Christianity. And if you haven't seen that yet, check that one out. That's my latest. Let me know what you think. And I will see y'all next week.